Get the video recording up and running. All right, audio. Output device. Yes, input device is internal microphone. And the display is the display. Get the CIDER page up. All right, so the audio stream and the video stream are running now. Good. So when you can't make it to the meetings, we have a live audio stream and a video stream on our YouTube live channel. And you can also get the previous meetings on the live channel as well. Something is not working right still. Hang on a minute. I'm only getting a piece of the display.
Usually it's TechEdge 5G, I think.
The Wi-Fi, either TechEdge Class or TechEdge 5G.
The password is Joel Elias 21.
Joel.
Joel.
Is it caps or anything?
Nope. Joel Elias 21.
And I'm not getting the right. Piece of the video. All right, let me try this. So I want it to be black text. Yes.
Is it for 5G?
Completely black.
It should be for this room. JOELELIAS.
And that's the only display. We're getting no
Let's see if it'll connect.
crop.
Try the other one.
Should be sitting next to me.
It's a small room.
All right, let's see how that works.
We all help each other.
All righty. Anyone have a question to start with?
This Wednesday, I had.
This shows locked. Is that?
Locked means it needs a password typed in. So when you select it from your Wi-Fi menu, it should then ask you to type in the password. And I'm still only getting a partial screen here. All right, let me remove that and add it back.
Oh boy. All right.
You didn't get it?
No, I think I connected now. I just gotta find where I am because oh, I went Safari. Where is it?
No, I don't want a window. I want the entire screen.
Can I put my Google Mail thing down here so that I don't have to?
Display, there we are. All right, now we're getting the right display.
And it's Apple CIDER.
AppleCider.org is the website for the users group itself. And now I need to move that down so I get the clock on top. It's like everything needs to be changed every week, even though nothing changes. All right, I'll see how that works. So the beginning. So a question about Google Mail. Are you using the Google website or the Apple Mail app?
I actually use Mac Mail.
Okay.
I have Google Mail set up as my email for Facebook because I
Mhm.
want but
So you can use the mail app for both email addresses if you want, and then you can get all your mail in one program.
the Mac Mail.
The Apple Mail app that looks like a postage stamp in the dock. You can set that up for multiple accounts. So I have 2 different accounts set up in mine.
Oh, so could you do that in mine?
Yep. So if you go to the mail menu, you can say add account, and then you can add in another email account from any other service. First thing it does is ask you which service you want to add. And so it knows the major services. So for example, if you wanted to add your Roadrunner email, you would say other, because it's not one of these listed. But if you're adding a Google address, you can add that. If you're adding a Yahoo address, you can do that. And there's actually a trick with Frontier Internet. If you tell it it's a Yahoo address and then put in Frontier, it'll work because Frontier uses Yahoo as the back-end server. So a lot of people.
You know what? He when I was over at his house, he helped me, and so like we moved my dock, and and so I just don't want to be taking a long time looking for something.
A lot of people like being able to read all of their mail in one program. So you got your home mail, your work mail, Roadrunner, Gmail, Yahoo. Some people like separating that so you don't mix home and work.
Okay.
And so you can do it either way.
Well, what I said is like because oh, you gotta go to my end because it's
You're saying mailboxes, add account, right?
Yeah, in the mail menu, there's an add account command.
no, not there.
I click on mailboxes.
No, not mailboxes, mail.
Wait here. So here's in, but that would be up here.
Oh, that was.
Account, add account. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, so I could just do my, put my Google here.
Yep.
So then I don't have to, okay, but then.
Give you prompts now.
Then you put in your Google username and your Google password
All right,
to set up that account.
I'll do that after, but how do I add another Mac? See, I really like the Mac Mail, but I'd like to have, I get everything, you know, so I'd like to have statements, you know, go to one and
I think she wants
import.
another alias for the same account.
Can I have 2 me addresses basically, or?
Well, do you want 2 separate addresses or do you want an alias to one address?
I don't know.
Okay, you have to decide. 2 separate addresses would be 2 different mailboxes used for different purposes. So some people like a work address and a home address. Some people will make an alias. So for example, I could be Steve at apple.com, and also I can be MacMan at apple.com, and that's one address that has 2 different names.
But does it all go in the same thing then? In the same?
That's the question. You can
Okay.
you can have all the mail go into one mailbox, or you can have 2 separate mailboxes.
Two.
If I read her
Two.
mind, she wants 2
Two.
mailboxes.
Because
Okay.
I get a lot of stores and stuff like that, but then, you know, then my statements.
A lot of people make a junk email address at Yahoo or Google in order to sign up for store promotional
Right,
listings, or you
yeah.
want to sign in someplace once, but you don't want to have to keep reading their mail all the time. So you can create a second address with Google or make a Yahoo address, and then all of those different email addresses can be put into the Apple Mail app.
Okay.
So you can read all the mail from all of your addresses in one program.
Is the Mac Mail, is that safer?
Safer than what is the question? Apple, Mac Mail, Google Mail, they're generally about the same. They both do a lot for security. Some people don't like the fact that Google reads, well, Google robots read the mail and give you ads based on your mail. Apple doesn't do that. Apple basically doesn't do anything to your mail. Yahoo has had a lot of breaches. They've lost 1 billion user accounts.
Yeah.
So we're not recommending Yahoo at all, unless you just want to throw away an account you don't care about.
No. I mean, I could just use the Google, but if there was a way to set up two separate Apple Mac.
You
Mac?
can, but it leads to more confusion later.
Okay.
So if you buy an app under one account, you can't access that app on another account. So generally, you just want to have one Apple account.
Okay, so I'm just gonna keep it simple, and I'll just do the.
And you can
Google.
make a Google account
then
for
if-
other things
if
as
it
well.
doesn't work, then I'll
hmm
come back when I have more
Yeah.
advanced. Okay.
One of the things we've had confusion with over the years is if people accidentally make a second Apple account, the problem becomes, as I mentioned, that any apps you buy don't work on anything else on other accounts. I'll get my picture back on the audio. And Apple doesn't allow you to merge accounts together,
Okay.
but they had a feature now called iCloud Family. So mom, dad, and the kids, you can merge together to make a family out of it.
Okay.
And what that lets you do is kind of merge your accounts together. So if mom buys a book, the other people in the family can get it for free. You know, if dad buys a song, the other people in the family can get it for free. So you don't have to buy the same thing for each of your kids.
Okay.
And that's iCloud Family sharing.
Okay.
And you set that up on your device if you happen to have multiple Apple IDs.
Okay. It's just me, so
That-
Okay.
So that's one workaround for the problem of accidentally creating multiple IDs. We see every now and then when someone forgets their password, they'll make a new ID, and then everything you bought under the old ID is now lost to you, and you have to buy it again. So if you forget your password, Apple has a website called iforgot.apple.com, and you go there to reset your password without changing the ID. So you don't want to make a new ID because that causes more problems later.
Okay.
The Apple IDs are generally based on an email address. And for example, I had a Roadrunner email address with Roadrunner. When you switch email addresses, some people will make a new Apple ID with the new email address. And then you run into the same thing. Apps you bought under the old address don't work anymore. So instead of making a new address, you can change your old address. And Apple's website, appleid.apple.com, allows you to manage your Apple ID. And one of the things that lets you do is change your Apple ID. So if you get a new email address, you can change your Apple ID to be the email address. The one trick is if you change your Apple ID, you need to log out of your Apple ID in all your devices, because that will be the old ID. So on your iPhone, your iPad, your computers, log out, and then you make your new ID, and then you can log in on all your devices with the new ID. It's a little bit confusing, so that's why we generally say don't bother, don't make a new ID, don't try to change your old ID unless you know what you're doing.
Okay. So now where it says choose a mail account to add, now there's iCloud. I mean, I have an iCloud address, right?
Well, you may not. It depends if you ever created one when you created your Apple ID.
Okay.
So if you used...
but for Roadrunner, would that be add other?
That would be an other, yes.
Okay, I don't even know what it is, but, okay, so maybe I'll do that. All right.
So when you make an Apple ID, it doesn't have to be an Apple email address. If you want an Apple email address, you can make one of those as well. And so the Apple email address would be under the iCloud, which is their latest name for their internet services. It started out as .mac, and so actually before that it was iTools. So I have StephenRay@mac.com. That was the first email address Apple offered. And when Steve Jobs announced that, he said, "Sorry to all you other Steves, but I've already got Steve@mac.com." And so, yeah.
Okay.
So if you create an Apple ID at, say, Gmail, you can also get an Apple email address if you want. A lot of people don't want to have to deal with multiple addresses, so they just stick with one.
Yeah, okay, yeah, all right. As long as I can see what would happen before with the Gmails, I'd forget about it, because I'd have to go into, the only way I knew how was to go into like Safari and do Gmail.
Yeah, going to the website,
So
you
as
forget
long
it's
as I
there.
can
Yep.
list it down here.
Yep.
Then I'll be okay.
And then when it's in the dock, you'll get the little notification tag that you've got unread messages waiting.
Oh, okay.
Well, that doesn't show up very
No,
well,
but
but
I got
yeah.
it. Okay.
doesn't like to blow up on the screen. Is there a...
Because I get, when I get
Brightness.
my, must be my Time Warner statements, and I
Yep.
think they go to my Roadrunner.
Yeah, they'll go to
Yeah.
your Roadrunner account unless you tell it otherwise.
And I never look at that, so,
So it'd be a good idea to add your Roadrunner account to the mail app so that you can get your Roadrunner mail.
yeah.
Now, unfortunately, Roadrunner does a very poor job of spam filtering.
Oh,
Howdy. Come on in.
Well, I saw the sign.
Yep.
Is this the Apple cider that used to exist back in?
Yep.
Yep. We're coming up on 40 years.
Oh, Steve.
Yeah.
Do you remember me, Mark
Mark. Last name?
Pierce from way back, man.
yeah.
Way back. This is,
I'm not sure.
Oh man. Well, so I went to Western New York Computing Systems
Yeah.
around that same time period. That's where I started my
Mhm.
computer career.
Yeah.
And we used to have LAN parties
Yeah.
at your place.
At our Mac office out in
Yeah.
Mendon. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we went to Kevin's house and
Kevin's house, yeah,
yep.
we had one there once, and they
Yep.
had some pizza. And do you remember?
when we used to have to drag all the computers together
Ty
like
Dibble,
this and plug wires in to play games with each other.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right. Ty Dibble was there. And
Ty's
other
there.
guys.
Yeah.
Made some good friends.
Yeah.
And a career out of it.
Cool.
So how are you?
Good. Good.
So I just saw the sign. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
we're doing
so-
our Q&A meetings here on Saturdays. We still do our main meeting Wednesday night, second
Oh.
Wednesday of the month,
Okay. Are you
over at East High now.
Still in the? Oh well.
We've only been there 20 years.
Yeah. I was gonna say. It used to be in East High.
Yep.
So I was probably there 20 years ago.
Yep.
I'm trying to think when 90 something, 95, 20.
This one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly 20 years ago was when I was a member.
Different color.
When did we started in
Yeah.
I still
70?
have some of the newsletters. I used to work on the newsletters and the.
Yep. So we're pushing. I got to update our website. We're pushing 40 years now. Next year will be our 40th anniversary. So last year was Apple's 40th anniversary in 76.
Yeah.
But it-
Yeah.
Usually.
And so we started in 78.
Yeah,
Sometimes
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is awesome. It's really
Cool.
nice to see
When
you.
it says
Yeah.
they're from the same.
Yeah, Kevin.
Right.
Remember Kevin? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, he got married last year and moved to Buffalo.
Really?
Yep.
Oh my goodness! And then there was. Are you in the middle of your meeting? Am I?
Yeah.
Am I messing it up?
Well, computer questions are good.
Oh well, I don't have any because
Okay.
I've been working in the industry for 20 years now.
Yeah.
So,
You're the answerer.
We need it more.
well, yeah.
For that reason.
Sadly, I'm more PC centric now than I am Apple. So,
Oh, we don't hold that against you.
well, you could. Miss it. I
Although we
miss
just earlier we had a call on a radio show that someone was installing Microsoft Visual Studio for Mac. Microsoft is embracing open source, and a lot of their Windows development platforms they're bringing over to Mac. So Windows developers can make Mac programs and expand their markets and
oh, cool.
earn more money that way too.
Mhm. Well, Visual Studio is a big package.
Yep.
I don't know in the Mac world if it will be, but
I think it was 4 feet long on the store shelf when it came with all the
Yeah,
manuals.
yeah,
We
Yeah.
said big package. We meant literally a big package.
it's still enormous. Yeah. Yep. Well, I won't take
Cool.
any more of the meeting time, but it's a pleasure to see
Yeah,
you.
good seeing you again. Yeah.
20 years later.
Yep.
Or you came to work out?
I did, yeah. Yeah, I'm a new. So I'm relatively new member, so I've never seen the assignment.
Mm-hmm.
But I was pleased to see that you guys are still
Yeah.
doing your thing.
Yeah, we're here. We're here the first Saturday after the second Wednesday.
I took a screenshot with my phone of
Yeah.
the up there because I had forgotten the last one.
Yep.
So
Yeah, the second Wednesday is our main meeting, and then the Saturday after that we meet here.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So it's not always the second Saturday. That's the tricky bit.
Gotcha.
Oh, that just reminds me of something I wanted to do today, and now I forgot.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to check out
Cool,
the website.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been 20 years. But I found a career. through
Nice.
Apple CIDER. Really? Yeah. That's how I met Kevin. I think Kevin introduced me to somebody at Western New York.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Started me off.
I always liked the Western New York building because it reminded me of the Millennium Falcon.
That's exactly
Yeah,
it really
it's
does.
that weird,
Yeah.
octagonal building in Bushnell's Basin when you go down 490.
And I was their Mac specialist for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, what did they used to be?
It was something before, but I don't remember.
Wallplex.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I think so.
And now they're Earthlink. I think they got bought by Earthlink a while ago.
Well, they split the
Because my
mainframe
next door
business
neighbor
out,
had
Yeah.
a bear with the president.
which is Synergy.
That's how I.
Yeah, that's what it is. Synergy now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been
His wife
been a
came
life.
there.
Yep.
Well, it's a pleasure to see
Yeah.
you again. Yeah.
The old history. It's we think sometime don't realize it's been that long.
I know. Well, so I work at the U of R, and I used to see Ty quite a bit.
Yep.
But not a lot of the other gang. I'm trying to think. There's Kevin. Who's Kevin's last name?
Condo.
Yes, Kevin Condo. And I worked with him a little bit and did some icons for. He was developing an app, graph something.
Mm-hmm.
A graphing app.
You used to attend the meetings, though.
Oh yeah, it was very good. Yeah.
You look familiar. I was around all that time.
Oh, you
Sitting
were?
in the corner somewhere.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't know you, but you looked familiar when you walked in.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I apologize for not recognizing. It has been quite a while.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Kevin, and then there was the other guy. There's a guy who lived on the west side. He might have been Native American heritage.
Bud.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to hang out over at
Yep.
Bud's a lot.
Yeah. He got married and couldn't play anymore.
Yeah.
That's what happened to a lot of us.
Yes, that does happen.
Yep. And now we're all getting back into it 20 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be working on some Macs this week.
Cool. Yeah.
We got a
All
lot of
right.
shipment coming in.
Good. Good seeing you.
Yeah, good to see
Yeah.
you too. Take care.
Are you doing I have a question.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, so in my mail, cites for example, right now I'm looking at Marriott rewards, but then all of a sudden comes one that's marked that it's suspected as a junk,
Yeah.
but I don't. But well, actually, in this case, I got more than one email.
Yep,
from
here's-
them.
Here's the one I've got that is pretty much junk.
But like, okay, so I had one here from Walmart. So, or here.
So when it's a legitimate message, like from Walmart or Kmart or something like that, at the bottom of the message there is usually, in fact there should be, an unsubscribe option to unsubscribe you from that mailing list,
Yes,
so they don't
yes.
send you any more messages.
Oh, and if it's the junk one, it doesn't.
Or if it's fake junk mail, earn money fast or something like that, you never want to hit that unsubscribe, because then the bad guy knows you read the message, knows you clicked on the link, and will send you even more junk mail.
Right. Okay.
So in that case, normally what you do is just hit the junk button in the button bar at the top of the window, and the mail program will learn what you think is junk and move it to the junk folder, and so you don't see it in your inbox as often.
Oh.
So depending on which version of the system you have, you might have a thumbs up or thumbs down button, or a trash icon button that says junk.
I do, but this is like in my inbox. I guess what I wasn't understanding is why, because it looks like the reply to is the same as the ones marked junk as
Mhm.
the obviously what's legitimate, but now it's a.
You may still have junk mail in training mode, where you train it what junk is before it moves it to the junk folder. In the mail menu under preferences, you can tell it to move junk into the junk folder rather than leave it in the mailbox.
Okay, but then I would. Okay, yeah.
So then what you have to do is every now and then look at your junk folder to make sure something good didn't accidentally make it into the junk window.
Right. And then
So then what you have to do is every now and then look at your
All
junk
right,
folder.
now,
Yeah, it's working.
So, okay. Look this one.
And after you scan your junk folder, then you might select it all and delete it.
Yep.
That's what I do, and I do it right away. Actually, I do it almost. I had left those in today to show you.
One of the tricks is, not trick, one of the problems is what is junk? There's no way to define it. So I just went to my junk folder. I got a message from Papa John's. wanting to give me a coupon.
It's junk food mail.
That's junk food mail, but it's not technically junk mail, so I may not want to put that in my junk folder.
Well,
But it
if you
thought
go
it was-
down- But you said if you go down to the bottom, it says
Right, but I don't want to unsubscribe. I want this one to be not junk, so I can click on the not junk button at the top
okay.
and tell it it's not junk.
But how do you really know it's not junk?
Because
It's just
I
like-
want to get ads from Papa John giving me discounts on pizza.
Okay, okay, so this is, all right. I
Yeah,
got
so
it.
that one,
It's
yeah,
like
and here's one
you-
from Mark's, yeah.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find. So most of this is legitimate junk mail.
I get
The
a lot of them from FedEx and
Yeah.
Google and
A lot of times the danger is the fake junk messages. And so here's a fake message from PayPal. This looks really legitimate. You know, it says it's PayPal. It's got the icon. Wants you to click here to log into your PayPal account. And one of your tricks is if you point to the link, it will tell you where that link is really going. So this link is going to Zigba.com. It's not going to PayPal.com. So I'll point back to it to bring that tip up again.
Get close so I can see it.
So that's one way to see it's not really PayPal. And in fact, in the address, it says it came from p-p.co.uk.
Well, right.
That's
so-
not PayPal either.
right.
That
so-
can be faked.
Oh, that's okay. I can
But-
just sit down there. 'cause
Speaking of PayPal, I mean, is that a good thing to have? I don't have.
It lets you buy things on the internet that don't accept credit cards directly. And so a lot of times it's used by smaller companies who don't want to set up a credit card merchant vendor. So it can be handy for doing that. So you can put your credit card in and it pays through pay. So like CIDER, we have a PayPal account, so you can pay your dues using PayPal because we don't want to pay the merchant services for actually setting up a merchant credit card account. Because we take so few credit card transactions that it wouldn't be worth the money it would cost.
Okay, so when I join legitimately, then,
You would go to PayPal.com in your browser.
okay. Oh, and set up,
And then set up a new account. Yep.
Okay.
One of the things to keep in mind with email is in essence never click on a link. It's very hard to tell if it's a legitimate link or a fake link. There are some things that do help tell you it's fake. If the grammar is awkward, it's probably fake because most of the bad guys are not native English speakers. So, you know, if the address doesn't look right. So these guys, they went to a lot of trouble to make this mail look legitimate, but they didn't do the simplest thing of disguising their email address.
Right.
So they could have disguised that address so it said PayPal.com, even though it didn't really come. It's like you have a postal mail, you put the wrong return address on it, and so someone thinks the mail is coming from the IRS and opens the letter. This time of year, there's a lot of really complex IRS scams.
Yeah.
Getting email purported from the IRS saying there's a problem in your tax return or your refund has been withheld. Click here. You have to be very wary of those. In fact, the IRS on their website says we don't even bother sending email. Many legitimate companies have had to stop sending email because you can't trust the email. And Apple got targeted a couple of months ago, and the bad guys were sending out fake. In fact, this is one of them. Yeah, this is a fake message. Again, they didn't even bother disguising their address, but this is a fake email that doesn't even go to Apple.com. But it looks legitimate, and a lot of people get tricked by these fake messages. So never click a link on email, even from someone you know, because it could be lying.
Right.
But it's okay now. Like I don't have any Apple products, but the other day I got an email, and on my phone I could see like Fifth Third Bank, which I don't think we have anything to do with Fifth Third Bank. But I got on my computer, it was some name and a bunch of numbers and something else. And so I put it in spam, but I didn't even want to click on that.
Yeah.
Can you click on that, but then Would it take you to a link?
It would take you to a fake page
but
that,
then you don't have, then you
but
can-
then they know you clicked on it and will send you more junk
Yeah.
mail.
Oh,
Yeah.
Just delete it. Right?
Just delete it.
I
Yeah.
mean, but you know, it's that one part where you see that Fifth Third Bank.
But
and
is
Yeah.
it your bank?
no,
Well, so if
but
it's
you know,
not your
you never
bank,
know,
One
you
of your
know.
instincts is, oh, I better tell them they have the wrong customer.
Well, no, not me.
Yeah.
My instinct was to keep checking my credit
Yep.
card every day.
The bad guys will also
So don't
use.
click on it
Here's
even
one.
to
Oh, here's one
open
from
it or
Citibank. Here's a fake message from Citibank. So they'll use big national banks. This is also fake.
But you're saying don't even go from my mail to like open to see, you know how sometimes I could get an email from you, say, and when I
Yeah.
click on your name, all there is a link there, nothing else.
Yep.
So there
Don't
I know
open
you
it.
don't click on
Yep.
it. But you're telling
That could
me
be fake.
I should, and I
Even-
didn't click on that.
Even the messages that look real still could be fake.
So don't even click.
Don't
to see
don't
what
click.
it is.
Don't click
Right.
any. If you point to the link, it will tell you where it's going. So point to it, but don't click. So now it's telling me where that's going. That's going to somewhere in China. That CN is China.
You know what? I would do. You know, if it's your bank.
Go to your
Well,
bank
it's not-
website.
Well, that's what
Yeah,
I do, but
manually.
It's not mine, and I don't think it's my husband's that I know of.
It's just junk. And you know
I
what?
get a lot of them from SunTrust because that's a big bank down in Florida and
Yeah.
in the South. And the bad guys tend to target older people who may not be computer savvy.
Right.
And they'll say, "Oh, something wrong in my account. I better click here and see what it is."
Now I've been getting them on my cell phone. Like
Yep.
if you had a couple IRS, and then I would like block them. I give them my numbers, so then I had like 60 blocked numbers. So then I finally deleted them and start over. Is there a place where you can go and type in a number? You know,
If you Google a phone number, it will you'll start seeing lots of things
Yeah.
about this is a scam, this is a scam.
Yeah. Or then it takes you to the place where then we go through the stuff. It says it's free, but then when you really want to know, you gotta pay.
Yep.
I didn't know if there was.
I'm trying to
this,
find one that has a phone number on it. But if it's a legitimate company phone number, it will probably Google will find that company by the phone number.
Well, I mean, and this is like on my cell phone, my iPhone.
Yeah.
See, like
There's
this
one
one,
from
I'm
a
just
bank.
looking, it says Fifth Third Bank in my mail.
Yep.
But see, I didn't even click on that part.
I just deleted it.
Yeah.
Just
Well, yeah.
Just delete it.
But
That's what they're.
I'd never even heard of
Name
Fifth
of the
Third Bank.
Bank. Third.
Fifth Third Bank
That is the name.
in Cincinnati, Ohio.
What?
They're in Cincinnati, Ohio.
But see,
So it's the Fifth
part
Third
of me
Bank.
wants
What
to
happened to
like-
the first through fourth Third Bank?
no, but that is legitimate. I know. We still,
Well, I guess too.
So it may be a legitimate company, but it's likely fake email. People use legitimate company names trying to trick people. And because it's virtually free for the bad guy to send a billion messages, they'll probably catch a few hundred or a few
Now,
100,000.
Your view, the way you have your view, she might be able to view it different, so you would see more.
well, see, I don't want to click on it. I mean, I
No.
don't.
Right.
No, but
Part of me wants to.
you know how when you saw.
Well, yeah. So
email
if
and
you have a
would see-
preview open, that preview can also
and she doesn't
tell
have
the bad
that.
guy you
Yeah.
viewed the message.
No,
So
well,
one of the things that Apple does, I'm not sure about other mail programs. There was one here earlier. It will not display. There it is. So it won't display a linked image.
Right.
So that green mailbox on the left is embedded in the body of the email, but the blue square is a linked picture. So that actually goes to the other end to load the picture, and that's how they know you read the message. And so by default, the Apple Mail app, and I think most mail apps now, won't display linked pictures unless you tell it to. And so that's a way that the mail program tries to prevent spam from accumulating, is by not displaying these pictures.
Where was the on-off for that?
I must have already told it because it's usually at the top.
Is that where it adds us if you want to load the rest.
Yeah,
I mean,
load
I
the
know
rest of the
that's
images
what
or not, something like
Yeah.
that.
it's
Okay,
kinda
so
wanna
you've
go
already got it
step
set if that
Well,
comes up.
see, it
It shows you that
displayed
selection.
differently, but like
I've probably
green,
already
you know,
showed that
green
at some
one, yeah.
previous
Okay.
meeting.
I think I've got it set that way. I'm not sure how I set it.
Yeah, I don't have any new ones that would do that.
Going back to mail, we talked a little bit about how it's routed and what the depth of information it uses for routing.
All right, so question is about mail routing. It's amazing that it works once you know how it works. Amazing that it works at all. And it works very similar to the way postal mail works. You have an email address, and that address, gmail.com, apple.com, something like that, is registered with what's called the domain server. And so these are servers on the internet that know where everybody is. And one of the things, oops, I can't type and talk at the same time. Not lock up, look up. One of the things that that is done is part of your domain. That's not what I wanted. Is called the MX record. There it is, which is the mailbox exchange. And so you send a message to someone. Your internet service provider looks up the name. So I want to send a message to just my company, jessegroup.com. And so your internet provider, so say you're connected to Roadrunner, looks up jessegroup.com. Jessegroup.com, look up. And that lookup tells them where to go to send that mail. And so this is the address of a computer that has said, I will take mail for Jesse Group. So this is like the postal sorting. You put mail in your mailbox, the postman picks it up, and they dump it in a huge vat down at Jefferson Road, and then it gets sorted. So it looks at the zip code and says, whoa, I got to send it to this direction. And then it gets to that zip code. So mail coming to you would come in to, say, Jefferson Road, because that's our main postal facility. And it looks at the zip code and says, 14450, that's got to go to Fairport. So then it goes on a truck, and all the truck goes to Fairport. So it goes to the Fairport post office. And then they go, oh, this is street address? That goes here. So it goes on another truck. And so that piece of mail works its way through the postal system, pretty much the same way electronic mail works its way through the internet. So the email address has a destination, and so this destination, in fact, Google handles our mail at my company. And so your mailbox, your internet provider, when you say send message, will send that message to this computer that has been registered to say, I receive mail for that name. Most of the time, the mail will go directly from your computer, your sending mail server, to the other mail server. So it goes point to point from one mail server to the other mail server. The next trick is that how you get from even here, how you get from Henrietta to Fairport, there's hundreds of different roads you could take. And that is called your trace route. So that's your route that it takes to get from Henrietta to Fairport. And so I just asked my computer to do a trace route to Apple. So I'm starting here, and so we've got an Asus router, and so this is telling me all the different computers that my packet of information is going through to get to the other end. And we call this the traveling salesman problem. You've got thousands of roads. What is the best path to get to the other end? And these, what became known as routing tables, what route is the best one to take, are put up in your router. And so the little box you have in your house routes the traffic from your computer to your internet provider. Your internet provider has a router that goes to their internet provider, and it goes up the stream and then back down the stream to get to the other end.
And it picks what it thinks it's best.
It picks what it thinks is the best path along the way. And so it looks like JCC is using Windstream as their internet service, because now we're going through Windstream. So we're in Rochester, we're in New York City. Looks like we made it to Virginia, and then it stopped when it hit Akamai.
Now, can I ask why you were asking about this?
Well, we're not on the path I was intending to go down. If I send mail to Steve Ray at me.com, and you get mail that says Steve Ray 1 at me.com, and you get mail at steve.ray at me.com, and it tends to see, like it truncates at 8 characters, so anything beyond 8 characters it seems to ignore.
No. Some early mail programs were limited to 8 characters. And many of you may have noticed that when say you signed up for Roadrunner, which has been around forever, your email address was limited to 8 characters. In my case, mine is S-Ray, so my name wasn't too long. But some people who have longer names got their email address was a truncated version of their name because the early mail systems were limited to 8 characters. Because the early computers were limited to 8-character words.
Okay.
That hasn't been true for a very long time. And each one of those addresses you gave an example are completely separate addresses and would go to different people.
Okay, if you are indeed getting mail to you that doesn't belong to you because someone has first name dot last name the same as yours
Yep.
at Gmail.
They registered it before you did.
No, they couldn't have because, well, okay, no, they could have as a dot. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, the
Well,
dot
I
in
did.
Gmail, the dot is ignored.
Well, okay, then I am getting mail that they assume is going to them, and it's not. It's
Right.
coming to me.
Right.
I'm
The
curious,
person,
is mail of mine getting to them?
the person who is sending the mail is sending it to the wrong address.
Because the dot is ignored, you're saying. First
Well,
name,
that's one thing. The dot can be ignored. So I get mail. There's a famous Scottish actor, Stephen Ray. I get mail intended for him because they assume his email address is stephenray@mac.com.
Maybe they didn't send some checks.
Yeah, I get mail thanking me for coming to appearances and what a nice guy I was.
Oh.
I always want to reply with the foulest profanity about you were such an effing stupid group and
Now, could we put his in there to see what?
Well, I'd rather not do. I don't want
Yeah.
to report. I guess all I'm saying is,
Right.
The reason I asked the question is when I get mail, some folks are unaware that my Gmail account has been there since the day I opened.
right. And so
They
there
are
is
trying to
yeah.
use it, and when they register it with someone else, whoever their
Mhm.
dentist is,
They're assuming
whoever
Bob
their
Smith
bank is,
at gmail.com is the Bob Smith they know.
Yeah, and so I'm getting their mail, and I'm
Yep.
saying to myself, okay, how do I even let them know? Because it seems well intentioned.
You
Your
could
dental appointment has been changed
Yeah.
on Thursday.
you could reply to the message and say this is the wrong
Yeah.
the wrong Bob Smith.
Okay.
But then, is he taking a chance that?
Well, I'm only curious.
Right,
about
you're taking
the
a chance if that was a real
technical
message or fake
issue
message, yeah.
that How, if it was routed improperly, because the way it's routed and being ignored because someone at the other end. is
Yeah,
unaware.
so that's not a routing issue. That's the sender put the wrong address on it.
Okay.
So you're addressing your envelope and you go to Bob Smith at 123 Main Street and it's supposed to be Bob Smith at 123 Park Ave.
Okay. How deep does it go? You said, well, it used to be 8 bits. Now it's unlimited, or is it?
There is a limit, but I don't know what it is offhand. Practically speaking, people don't like going more than 10 or 15 characters.
Okay.
Because usually, don't they say this is already taken?
That's another issue. So when you're signing up, all right, 64 characters is the technical maximum.
Okay.
according to RFC 1690. But most people don't like it that long. In fact, one of the problems we have run into here with Roadrunner, the email address you get with Roadrunner is rochester.rr.com, and that's a lot to type and a lot to say, and so a lot of people have moved to different mail services, so they get a shorter address. So for a while, Time Warner was using TWC.com, Time Warner Corporation.com. And so people signing up for Time Warner Internet Now will get TWC.com. That's nice and short. The problem becomes how long that service has existed means all the people ahead of you have already picked all the good names. So something like Roadrunner, which has been around forever, Google, which has been around forever, you try to get bobsmith@gmail.com, it's already taken. bobsmith1@gmail.com, already taken. bobsmith2@gmail.com, already taken. So that goes back somewhat to your question. When you create an email address, it has to be unique to that service. So there can be a bobsmith@google.com and a bobsmith@roadrunner.com. That could be the same person, could be different people. But there is only one bobsmith@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And if your name happens to be Bob Smith, and that's not your address, you can get mail people thought was you and isn't. So the people you do know will send it to the right address. It's people you don't know that might be looking for you that will send it to the wrong address.
Is Time Warner continue, or Spectrum continuing with TWC?
So far, I think so, yes. Although Spectrum.com is rather short anyway. But I've seen some companies will put huge email addresses at gmail.com because that's a little easier than making your own domain name. But it's annoying to have to type all the time.
Okay.
So that's why people would say Bob Smith 1, 2, 3 or
Right.
whatever.
You have to come up with something to make it different and unique from everybody else on the system. So you put numbers in it. As we said earlier, the periods are ignored. So you can say Bob.Smith, or for a company, in fact, we got Mac-Av because Mac-Av was already taken, so we had to have Mac-Av. That separates it to make it look like words to make it read easier.
But uppercase, lowercase doesn't make a difference.
Correct. Case does not matter in an email address.
So what special
It does matter
characters-
in a password, but not the address.
What special characters do matter?
Well, let's see what this RFC.
Hyphen does, slash probably is an illegal character or something.
Yeah, there are illegal characters.
Underscore is another.
Underscore is valid.
Okay.
Let me see. Illegal character email address. Let's see what they have. Well, Microsoft has. Hyphen? I don't think hyphen is legal. All right, here we go. So uppercase, you can use uppercase and lowercase, but case is insignificant. It doesn't matter. So uppercase Bob Smith is exactly the same as lowercase Bob Smith. Digits 0 through 9.
I once tried to use somebody's name that had email, and that was not accepted. I had to use the letter without the email.
Yep. Now, newer mail systems are allowing accented characters and non-Roman characters, which is especially useful in Asia. So we're seeing extensions to the mail systems that allow those types of characters.
And for terrorism, it's in Arabic.
Yeah, you could Arabic names, Chinese names, Korean names.
What about tilde in Spanish?
The Enya in Spanish, yeah, that's
Are you
Common.
Gmail, do they use, or is Gmail one of the companies you're saying will now use these diacritical marks?
I don't know offhand.
Yeah.
Let me add Gmail and see what their guidelines are. Names and passwords. All right, this might tell us what the names are. All right, so here's Google's limit. So underscore, apostrophe, and period is allowed. You cannot use an ampersand, equal sign, brackets, plus, minus, or more than one period in a row. You can't.
Well, let's back up then, because what we just said is username names can contain periods. If it contained a period, would that make it unique? So
On
Steve
Google,
Down- yeah.
on
Steve
Google it
Down-
does not. Google ignores a period
Okay, well, what they say period's a valid name there. a valid-
because it's a valid character. It's just ignored.
Oh.
I know somebody who separates their first and last name. On
Yeah,
their-
that's typically why you do it. You don't have to have the period there. It just separates the name so it's more human readable.
Okay.
So you see that a lot.
So
You see
the
human
routing is
readable.
ignored for human interaction. It's just to separate.
Yep.
It's like using caps.
Yeah.
Like capital S, capital R. If it was Steve dot.
Oh, let me revise my statement there. Periods are not ignored if they're in a Gmail account.
Okay, see,
They
I'm
are
getting
ignored
mail
when
with
they're in
those.
other variations.
I am getting mail with people who have periods in the same name as mine. And it's winding up in my mailbox, and that's why I'm curious about if that routing wound up to me, is mine getting to them? I'm curious.
If someone sending a mail to you puts a period in the address, it goes to the other person.
Okay, but I'm getting theirs with a period coming to me.
Right. Someone who thought they were sending it to them is sending it to you with a period.
I did
Yeah, but how
a
did it get routed to me if that's a legitimate address? That should have been routed to someone else. You're telling me that that's a legitimate Gmail address, and that should be routed to them. It should show up in that table. It's going to a different, ISP.
What I'm thinking is this is a change in the way Google used to work. Periods used to be ignored,
Okay?
and now they're not.
And then this is about creating an
So
Well, it's amazing
You
if
might-
it works at all.
yeah,
And if you only get a couple, but it was again just curiosity and said, is there a technical issue? Are they only going so deep? Are they ignoring certain characters? Does it vary between Gmail and Yahoo and Apple and iCloud and Roadrunner and everybody else have their own rules?
do you have a different email account other than Gmail?
Yes.
Send a message to your Gmail account with periods and without periods, and see if
I get 'em.
you can get them both.
Okay. Good idea.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, an email alias can be used for, typically it's used for businesses. So I have an email alias called support@Jesse Group, and that gets dumped into my Steve account. So I don't want to give people my Steve address all the time, but I give them the support address.
okay.
So it's an alias to the same address, but it's a single mailbox. It isn't two separate mailboxes. If it were two mailboxes, then you have to remember to check each mailbox separately. And the other thing aliases let you do is set up group addresses. So in actuality, my support@Jesse Group address goes to me and the other technician we have. So whichever one of us sees it first can answer the message. So that would be an alias pointing to someone else's address rather than your address. So you could make an alias, for example, to shorten your email address. So instead of StephenDudleyRay@Mac.com, I could have an alias that would be Steve@Mac.com. But again, the alias has to be unique. Someone else can't have already taken that address. So we kind of joke the people with the shortest email addresses have been on the system the longest because no one else was there with that short address at the time.
I saw a car driving the other day, and license number 8. I couldn't see what state it was. 'Cause they had,
Just an
Oh,
8.
They had
Wow.
plastic, and a plastic over it, and I couldn't clearly see what state it was from. But the license number was 8.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
Politicians.
that's
The
considered
politicians control those.
Well, whatever it was, I couldn't tell. It was too obscured by the plastic covering it. I couldn't tell what state.
Yeah.
they have vanity plate.
Yeah, it would have to be a vanity plate because most states are more than one character.
It's usually-
But he's the first one to get that.
Now, when I create a Gmail new contact, I'll type in the name, and then where it says email, I'll type it in there, so that when I want to send an address and send an email, I just type in the beginning of the
Mhm.
name and it pops up and I can.
And the mail program looks in your contacts to find who matches your typing.
And my question is, what happens if I insert the middle initial when I type in the name of the person there, and the recipient does not use that middle initial in their email?
Well, if you put it in the email address, it won't work because that's the wrong address.
Well,
If you put it in the name, it will work because the name is in essence ignored by the email system.
okay,
It's
now,
just data that's passed along.
now you got those arrows going different directions that will contain.
Many mail systems will differentiate. No, I don't want to do that. Will differentiate the name that the message came as and the actual email address it came as. The only thing that actually matters to the mail is the email address. The name is a convenience for you.
Okay, now I manage a distribution list for about 150 people, and so when I set it up, I type out their full name, and then the arrow, then their email address, then the other arrow to separate them, and then colon, and then the next one. So
Yeah, that's more than you need. You just need the email address.
well, so that I can just highlight, copy, and paste the whole thing into the address for the blank carbon copies.
Right, I was going to bring that up.
And so, several people complained they weren't getting it. And I think that the cause was that I put in a middle initial when I typed it up initially.
Right. So don't type their name, only type their email address.
Well, I like to be able to see the name because then when I need to, in this case, follow through, well, yeah, I did send it to you, but you didn't get it. And I was able to see their name on all the carpets.
But the name doesn't matter. Only the email address matters.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, because I was thinking that if it didn't, I should have sent it to Jeffrey instead of Jeff. And I was wondering if that made a difference.
Yeah.
Explain why he didn't get
It depends on what his email address is. If his email address is Jeff and you send it to Jeffrey, he won't get it.
Well,
Someone else named Jeffrey will have gotten it.
I had the email address okay, but it was the name that that I used to be able to see who I sent it to, because you can't always figure that out from the email address. I used his name and I said Jeff, but in his he always calls himself Jeffrey, and so I'm wondering if that's an explanation as to why he didn't get it.
Probably.
Does it have anything to do with how it's entered in your contacts?
Yeah, that's the other aspect. If you have it, so if you had Jeffrey in your contacts and Jeff as the email address, that would have worked. If you have Jeff in your contacts and Jeff as the email address and you type Jeffrey, it wouldn't work.
Well, he was using Bluff Point at Lockwood, and so his name was not in the email address at Lockwood.com.
Right. So you have to put his name in your contacts.
And it was.
So the mail program knows what to type. So you either type his name or you type his mail address. You shouldn't type both because the name is ignored and only the email address is used.
So if I had sent it only the email address, it would have worked okay.
Yeah.
But I screwed it up by adding his name and said Jeff instead of Jeffrey.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
You know, if you
Because one's in your address book and one wasn't. And then when you do send messages to a lot of people, you'll always want to make sure to use the BCC, blind carbon copy. Everyone know what carbon paper was?
yeah.
So you may have gotten a message with a huge list of other people's email addresses, and then a message. That's one way the bad guys collect email addresses to send spam to. So if you use the to field or the CC field, everybody sees everybody else's address, and people get mad when you put their address in a public message. So you should always use the BCC field to put the addresses in, so nobody else sees who else the message went to, and those email addresses are then hidden so the other person doesn't accidentally see them.
Well, fortunately, this person that had the problem emailed me to ask me to straighten it out because they didn't get the message and put the spouses as a CC.
Yeah.
So I had those, so I highlighted both of those, copied them, and pasted them into my new directory, and then sent it out that way.
Well, instead of copying and paste, you should just make a group.
Well, I wanted to be able to print out hard copies so I could look things up in there more easily.
Yeah, you can print hard copies.
Because I wanted to be able to revise it for the next mass mailing.
Yeah. So you can make a group and put a bunch of addresses in your group. In fact, this is how old this group is. There's people that don't come to the meetings anymore in my group. And then I can address a message to the group. And so if I address this to CIDER, it will automatically send it to everyone in the group.
Okay.
And then you can see who's in your group. You can print who's in your group, and access groups that way. So it's easier sending messages to groups,
Oh,
one group instead of 50
you
names.
put it in the BCC?
And then you put it in the BCC so
And
other people don't see it.
You don't put anything in the...
Well, if a lot of people put themselves in the to line,
Send it to yourself.
so you know the mail actually went out.
Oh,
So it's interesting because so you send this message, your sending mail server treats it as just an ordinary message, looks up who to send it to, and says, "Oh, I know that," and it will send it back to. So it actually goes out to your server and comes back into you.
And that's why I use to monitor who gets it.
Yeah.
But the advantage I said to put the name in addition to the email address is so I know who it goes to. But then the next question is, can I alphabetize that by putting last name in the name of the identity of the receiver, the recipient? Can I put last name, comma, then first name so that I can alphabetize, or does that sequence screw it up?
I'm trying to. You have to put them in exactly the way they are in your contacts.
Okay.
And you can sort your contacts last name, first name, or first name, last name.
and it just depends
In
on-
the so you can sort it whether you want first name first or last name first in your contact list.
Okay. Well, so when I highlighted and copied
That
the
doesn't
whole
exist
list
anymore.
from the CC or from the BCC of the email that I sent out, it's got the names there, but they're not necessarily alphabetized. How do I do an alphabet sort?
You don't,
You know,
because it's a message. It's an email message.
yeah.
You'd have to put it into another program to sort it if you wanted to. But it doesn't matter if it's sorted or not because the messages are just sent as one at a time.
Well, it's helpful for me to be able to identify whether somebody was overlooked or something.
Yeah.
And so I guess probably what I have to do is I would print it all out with 150 and then try to put a number so that I can get an alphabetical order that way.
Or
And
put it
then,
in another program and sort them.
what sort of program can I use?
Every program sorts. Text edit, Word, Pages, Keynote,
Okay, now,
numbers, everything sorts.
Okay, now I've got a program that I had set up for something that would sort it. For all the download things. When you go to Finder, they're not alphabetical, and there is a program that I installed to sort it, which I thought was sorted, but then the next time I tried to use it, it's no longer sorted.
Well, I guess text edit doesn't sort. Okay. So scratch text edit. So Word, Excel, numbers, pages, BB-Edit, Text Wrangler. Most text programs will sort.
So,
Most word processors will sort.
so if I just highlight and paste, copy and paste it into Excel, that will do the sort for me, and then I get that.
Right.
Okay. Because that's 150 is a lot to alphabetize by myself.
Well, didn't your groups sort?
Yeah, the groups sort because it's an address book. Address book sorts messages.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm still trying to understand, if you sent it to a
Yeah,
group,
sort.
it should have gone in sequence of these group, which
Mm,
is sorted either first.
he's
name
not
or
sending
last
to a group. He's sending it to a bunch of people.
And I'm continually tweaking the list that I send.
name. Well, yeah, but the group would do that.
If you put them in a group, then the group is always sorted.
Add the link to the group any day of the week.
No, I don't know how to do that.
Well, yeah, but okay, then it's pretty straightforward. Create a group. You add people to the group right from your contact list. You delete them from the group, and you haven't altered anything other than the group contents. It's just a pointer. It's almost like editing in Lightroom. You never alter the original. All you're doing is putting
Mm-hmm.
text info in a special folder.
Yeah, there's an
Make a group for the people you take out, and then they're there in case you want to add them back in.
yeah in the file menu. There's a new group command, so you can make a new group. and then I can go to all my contacts and I can grab people and drag it into that group.
They'll all automatically be alphabetized, first
Right.
name or last name.
Yep.
Then if you're concerned about having a group that's new or old, copy the group, make a duplicate of it and redate it.
Well, what I've been doing,
Right. Oh, right.
once I paste all of these into the address line, and 50 of them there,
Right.
then I will scroll down and see if there's somebody that shouldn't be getting it this time. And all I will see is the email address, and then I can click X, and then that's deleted from that particular email.
Yeah, that's a lot of extra work. If you do it as a group, then it's a lot easier.
Group, they're automatically alphabetized, and you got first name, last name. You don't care what the
But I
email
want
is.
to be able to delete mailing by mailing. And that's also an issue because when I see those email addresses there, even though I had used their name in addition to the email address, all I can see in the address box is the email address, and if they've got some
Wacky name.
creative name, I won't necessarily know who that is.
I think you can do quite nicely with your contact with it, creating a group.
Well, that's good.
Make a master group and then add the link from that and use it. In my opinion, I would make two groups. I would have an identical duplicate group. You have your master list that everybody and their dog is on. You have what you're going to use the mail group, and that's the one you're going to sort through and throw people out, like you said, the people you don't want to get this mailing. And you drag that into the BCC thing, and off they go.
And maybe have a one-time edition.
There you go.
And many email programs have a limit of how many people you can send a message to at once, and many email servers have a limit how many people in a single message and how many people per day. Looks like Google will let you send between 100 and 150 per message, or 100 or 500 per day. We used to run into a problem at the office with Frontiers. We could only send 1,000 messages a day. Yep, and we've got 3,000 people in our mailing list, so we have to trickle them out slowly over several days. Sometimes you can call the ISP and ask them to increase your limit, but they do that for fraud and spam protection. That you don't want to be sending 1,000 messages a day. Your machine could be, in fact, that's usually what happens. Your machine gets infected with a mass mailing virus, and suddenly you're sending out thousands of messages. So your email provider shuts off your mail service. And then we get a call, I can't send mail. And it turns out because you had a virus and the mail service shut off your mail service. Instead of telling you, they shut off your mail service. But then on the other half, we will get the same problem where Roadrunner will shut down mail service because you have a virus on your Mac. No, I do not have a virus on my Mac. There are no Mac viruses. Someone else using my return address has a virus. And that's another way the bad guys hide themselves, is by picking a random return address, so that it's the good guys can't trace it back to the bad guy. Going back early about short names, Om Malik is a well-known technology writer. He's got one of the best URLs ever, om.co. And I don't think it could be any shorter than that. There are some one-character domains, but they're not very common.
Like stock market symbols.
Yep.
What is it called?
Columbia. But a lot of people like it because it's short. Twit.tv is popular. .tv is the island nation of Tuvalu, and they get a lot of people using them for TV content. What's the other one that's good? Oh, Relay.fm. So FM gets a lot of French Micronesia.
Wow.
And then there was an AM too. I forget who AM was. So getting your 2-character code. So you could get a .us, .ny.us here in New York if you wanted to run your own mail server to get a custom domain name, or you can use custom domain names with most of the other mail services as well.
Can you get an FM from here?
You have to go to the whoever registers .fm. and register it from them. So some of these smaller countries have made a big big business in selling their country's domain name to foreigners because it makes a neat name for some company.
Does not take any investment, just like these small countries issue postage stamps for collectors.
Yeah.
It's pure profit.
I'm trying to see how much it's going to cost. It looks like you have to request a domain, and then they'll decide if they'll allow you to have one before they tell you how much it's going to cost.
There you go. Probably depends on how big you are is how much you run it.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Domain pricing. Let's see what that is. So .fm is only $100 a year. Not bad. .am. .tv. Radio.fm, radio.am. A lot of radio stations have gotten into that. So you can't always assume it's .com when you go to a website. .com was originally intended for commercial websites, but then we basically ran out of useful words .com. So the internet has created more top-level domains, they're called.
Oh, I always wondered why somewhere net.
.biz is a
Org, I
popular one. You know, .org was supposedly nonprofit organizations. .gov, .mil, are edu for education. Yep. And so there are different organizations around the world that all get together and agree what the top-level domains are going to be. I'm trying to find a list of top-level domains.
New York Times crossword puzzle last night, 6 letters, school edition. And of course you're thinking annex, what could it be? It was DOTEDU.
There we are. So .org, .net, .gov, .mil. And then every country was assigned to their own 2-character country code. So let's see, who's .am is Armenia. So sometimes you may not want to use that domain, depending on who it actually is, even though it makes a nice company name.
Does that mean that it's that the switching unit or the routing actually goes through there, or just that they are the registrar of note?
Probably they are just the registrar. So the DNS lookup, so the phone number lookup, would send it to the computer it's supposed to go to. It probably doesn't have to route through that country.
Okay, so it's going through LA and back to New York and never going to Dutch Antilles or.
Probably not. Although every now and then,
big enough to, have electric to run them.
yeah, every now and then there is a problem. What was the other one that was good? .to. Every now and then there's someone will misconfigure a router. Tonga, that's the other one, another island nation in the Pacific. And there's something called the Border Gateway Protocol, where routers between countries, because each country has its own internet domains and whatnot, someone will misconfigure the network, and suddenly all of, say, Amazon's traffic ends up going through Myanmar to get to California because they made a mistake in their phone book, and it filtered its way up to the master phone book, and things go nuts.
Is North Korea part of the system?
Yep.
So
I would guess it's NK. Let's see.
Do they filter things out?
Probably. Oh, North Korea is .kp. South Korea is .kr. Korean People's Republic and the Korean Republic, probably.
How would they filter emails out? So that people can't infiltrate?
So they filter with their routers. So all of the router in the ISPs are probably controlled by the government. The border routers that go to the next country are controlled. In fact, during the Arab Spring and some of the Chinese student protests, one of the common things to do is to change your DNS to Google. So when you wanted to look up an address, it asked Google for the address and not your local government-controlled phone book. The domain system. It's the master phone book of the internet. And so in China, people were writing on the wall 8.8.8.8 is Google's DNS. So if you're having trouble getting somewhere in an oppressed country, you can put Google in instead of North Korea's DNS and possibly get to where you want to go then. But that can still be filtered too, because when the government owns the pipe, they can control who's going through it.
Like Cuba.
Yep, Cuba. Let's see, what's Cuba? .cu. That
They don't let very many of their people have internet.
they're a very, very poor and isolated country because of the blockades the U.S. has put against them. But that's been changing lately.
Some of these countries hack the messages.
What was that?
Well, we hear about Russia has been hacking emails of the Trump campaign.
Oh, email hacking. Yeah, there are a couple of common ways. Usually in what's called a phishing attack with a PH. You get an email from Citibank saying there's a problem in your account, and so you click the link thinking you're going to Citibank, but you're actually going to Russia. You type in your account credentials, and now the bad guy has your account credentials. Then there's spear phishing. So a phishing attack is they cast a wide net, send out 1 million addresses, 1 million messages, hoping to catch somebody.
So they'll catch my email that's coming into me, and they'll read it, and I can...
No, they send a message to you and trick you into replying and typing in credentials.
Okay, but then they'll have the ability to get into my future email.
Well, if they trick you into giving them your email credentials.
No, when I
That's what
received-
happened.
Yeah, that's what happened.
When the staff people were replied.
Yeah, and the Yahoo breach.
Exactly.
The Yahoo breach, actually, that was a big thing we forgot to talk about on Soundbites. The FBI indicted, I can't talk. The FBI indicted a bunch of people this week for the Yahoo breach. 1 billion messages were lost by Yahoo. Not message, 1 billion accounts. It was 3 Russians and a Canadian, and that is too low. I got to get back, say, in the past month. And it turns out, was this it? That's how they got into some of the Yahoo accounts. They were able to trick Yahoo employees into turning over their Yahoo credentials. So then the bad guy could log into Yahoo's back end, and they made copies of Yahoo's database. So that was a spear phishing attack. Knowing someone who works at that company will send that specific person a fake email. Here's the new HR document. Download and sign it, and it includes a virus payload. Or you need to change your password. So here's the form to type in your new password, and then the bad guy gets your account.
Now, when I receive an email message, it shows up this boldface that I've got the message. So when I click on it to read it, it's no longer boldface. Now, even if I read it on my iPhone, it is no longer boldface on the desktop. And my question is, if the NSA or somebody else reads my email, does that also trigger an unbolding?
Question is, when you read a message, it's unbolded, or the little blue dot showing a red message goes away. Mute that. If they log into your mail service to read the message, then it would be marked as read, and you'd lose the bold facing.
So,
If they intercept, so what we are fairly certain the NSA is doing is they are intercepting every bit of data going down the internet and then weeding through it for keywords.
Long before you get it.
Right, before you ever get it.
but then NSA process does or does not unbold it.
No, it does not. So it's like you send a postcard. So one of the things people don't realize is email is like postcards. Anyone along the way can read a postcard if they want to. Or keep a copy of it. They probably won't, but they could. So that's what the NSA does: is they suck in the entire internet, and then search through it for keywords. One of the good things we heard in an interview with Mark Rogers, who is a security expert. No, it was on triangulation. He's the head of security for DEF CON, one of the biggest hacker conventions. He works at Cloudflare now, which is one of the largest internet hosting companies. And he used to work for Vodafone, one of the largest cell phone companies in Europe. And he does not think, it's probably okay. Can't type and talk at the same time. He does not think the NSA has the capacity, here it is, has the capacity to keep everything for very long. They built a giant data center out in Utah, reportedly 20 petabytes of data. So your computer has let's say a terabyte drive. You get 1,000 terabytes, you get a petabyte. So 1,000 of your drives, and so you get 20,000 of your drives, and you have this Utah data center. That's probably underestimated by now. They have so much data, but there's petabytes a day generated. In fact, I think Google has a statistic about that. So many petabytes a day are generated that it's impossible for them to store it very long. And Mark estimates he'd be surprised if it was a week they could store it. Targeted data they'll keep for people that are actually watching, but data in general they can't keep very long. So you're probably safe. So the fear was, say you get arrested for doing something, the police can go back through all the data you've ever done anywhere, and they found an email from 10 years ago where you said, I shoplifted a cigarette from the store, and then they can charge you for that too. Probably doesn't happen unless you're already a target of investigation. So it was kind of nice to hear him say that. He was one of the guys that hacked the Tesla, and showed how to take remote control of a Tesla. And so he's a white hat. So then he told Tesla how to fix the holes in their system.
That'd be interesting to driverless cars.
Yep. Well, some people have called the Teslas not a car; it's a mobile computer. Tesla has done really good things about separating the driving controls from the entertainment controls. That's how a lot of the other cars have been hacked into. Is you hack into the movie playing computer, and now you've got control of the engine and the transmission and the gears.
Well, remember when the Blazers were flying their plane and decompressed and they lost consciousness, but the plane continued to fly.
Yeah, autopilot kept flying until they ran out of fuel.
I thought that it would be interesting if the FAA or somebody would have the capability of turning that plane into a drone and safely guiding it.
The danger there is that, right, if there's a backdoor, and that's the whole fight in computer encryption too. If there's a backdoor for the good guys to use, the bad guys will find it and exploit it. So we don't want any sort of backdoor in our encryption, because then the bad guys will use it.
Did they know they were passed out?
No, that was the problem.
Well, so how would the FAA know to send a drone?
Well,
if they-
They stopped making radio contact to the towers.
Okay.
They didn't land at their
Okay.
destination airport.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
was flying for several hours, and
There was a golfer a few years ago where the same thing happened. Yeah.
On Canada, and so it seems like it'd be nice to be able to take it over and navigate it safely.
The bad guys have usurped all of the nice technology we've created, and so we're afraid of making things too much easier.
You don't
So why
think it'd be
don't
safe
we-
to try to do this?
No. The bad guys will find it and exploit it. They'll intentionally crash airplanes. Yeah. Rick.
Speaking of encryption, did you see the article about Google saying that they weren't going to honor Symantec SSL certificates anymore?
There is a deprecation plan. Aha, there it is. The internet has different encryption methods. Well, let's see how what Symantec is saying about it. So
Symantec bought up, like Verisign.
yeah, so there are companies that it's part of what we call the public key infrastructure. There are companies we trust to cryptographically sign a certificate to prove that company is who they say they are. So when you go to Amazon.com, you get the little green padlock that says this is really Amazon.com. So there are companies we trust to do that. And every now and then, some company violates that trust and they get removed from the list. One of the jokes is that there's over 400 trusted root certificates in the computer. One of them is the Hong Kong Post Office. And so the Hong Kong Post Office is probably under the control of the Chinese government. So the Chinese government can make an encrypted website that all our computers trust through the Hong Kong Post Office.
Sometimes on a site, whatever, you go to shop and it says the certificate is
Yep.
like it's expired.
Right.
or
There are
whatever.
so during these certificates, they use a certain level of encryption, and they typically have an expiration date for when they expire and how long they last. And so currently, most certificates are signed using something called SHA-1. It's the secure hashing algorithm. Can't even say that. SHA-1, the secure hashing algorithm, has been weakened by modern computers. So I think SHA-1 is like 20 years old. So it's been weakened. Hasn't technically been broken yet, but it's been weakened. The previous encryption was called MD5, and that has been broken. Because SHA-1 has been weakened, most companies have stopped using it and are starting to use the next generation, which is SHA-256. And let's see about Symantec's own.
So if you get that message that the certificate's expired, you want to trust it.
So the problem is, so because certificates expire, the company needs to renew them after they expire. So I'm looking at the Symantec certificate. It expires on Sunday, July 17th at 8 p.m. Eastern, which is kind of a bad day. It's a Sunday. No one's at work. So you can go to a website that says a certificate has expired. You can look at the date it expired. And if it's a couple of days ago, it's probably okay. Someone just forgot to renew it. Then this often happens when they expire on a weekend because they forgot to renew it before the weekend. So it's usually safe to trust it then. The problem is when it expires, somebody else could renew it if they're fast enough. And that has happened a couple of times. In fact, it happened to Google at least once. Someone else was able to register Google.com in the certificate authority because the old one expired. Okay. And was able to trick the company into giving them Google.com.
So a hacker could do that.
Yeah. So if it's expired more than a day or two, you probably don't want to do it. In fact, if you wait a couple hours, it'll probably fix itself because someone will fix it by then.
Does the real Google have to pay ransom to get it?
Yeah, that would be interesting if Google did have to pay ransom.
Did you say those letters? You said
SHA is the
Does it show there? So that
somewhere it will say in here what they're using. Yeah, I just have to find. So this certificate is using SHA-1 and SHA-256. So what's happening is that Google Chrome is going to start warning people that the certificate of a website they go to has been weakened. And it's going to panic people sort of unnecessarily. And it's forcing companies to upgrade their security certificates. But this has been coming for like 3 years now. And every time the deadline approaches, in fact, what is the deadline now? November 2013 was the first deadline, I think. So Microsoft was starting to deprecate it in 2013. And every time the error comes, so January 1st, 2017 is when Google started doing it in Chrome. Every time the deadline comes up for them to stop allowing SHA-1 certs, some big company comes and says, we're not ready yet, we can't do it, it will take too much time, effort to switch all our stuff over, give us some more time. And so the companies push out, 6 months, a year, the SHA-256 adoption. This is because, since this has been going on for so long, most of the companies have stopped extending those certificates. And so what we're seeing now is Chrome is now warning people that an SHA-1 cert is vulnerable. It's weakened, not vulnerable. But most companies have already switched to SHA-256, which when your cert expires, it's no big deal to switch to the next one. Even before your cert expires, you can switch to the next one. Symantec has bought several of the certificate authorities in the US, and so they are now one of the largest certificate authorities in the US issuing certificates.
Are they a US company?
Yes. So the irony is that Symantec issues certificates, they are using a weak certificate, so Google Chrome is going to not stop allowing Symantec certificates, but if there is a Symantec SHA-1 certificate, they're going to warn the user that this site is potentially not secure and you should be wary using it. So most websites you go to, most banks, shopping sites, have already switched to the new security. So let me see here. So Amazon is using Symantec as their security certificate. And let's see what they are using. So they're using a 2048-bit key. They're using SHA-1 and SHA-256. So that's how most companies have done it, using both the old encryption and the new encryption. Because old computers, old browsers, old operating systems, the new encryption. So say you're on a Mac running System 10.5, you cannot get to some websites because your old operating system does not support the new encryption. And that's typically where have done my offline. So I don't remember where that switchover was. Let me see if we can find it. So if you're running an old OS, your computer may not be able to do the newest certificates. 256. Let me see if I can find out when they added SHA-256 to the Mac. Yeah, so here's so MD5 is the very old technology that is broken. SHA-1 is weakened, and SHA-256 is the current version. Let's see, how can I find out when was SHA-256 added to macOS? Let me see if it can tell me. May not be able to tell me. Let's try this. So that's one reason the companies keep telling the cert issuers, I can't switch yet because we're running old software. All right, so you need to be running Safari version 3 with 10.5 to use SHA-256. So if you're running an older operating system or an older browser, you cannot get to websites that are using only SHA-256. So a lot of websites will use both SHA-1 and SHA-256 for backward compatibility and future future-proofing. They don't really have two different web pages. They have two different certificates installed on the single web server. So let's see, these guys, yeah, 1 and 256. So eventually SHA-1 will be completely deprecated and will stop being used.
What's the downside to them having both? Is there a downside?
So the downside of having both is since the older encryption has been weakened, there's the potential that the bad guy could make a fake certificate and trick you into going to, say, PayPal.com, fake security certificate. So we've been training users for years. Look for the padlock to make sure you're encrypted when you're doing something with money. Amazon, PayPal, banks. If the encryption is weakened, or if the certificate authority itself is compromised, then the bad guys can make an encryption certificate for a company, and you think you're at encrypted Amazon.com, you're not. You're at fake encrypted Amazon.com.
The machine is going to accept either certificate rather than the highest level.
Yes,
Okay.
it'll accept either's one. So, and that's called the downgrade attack. That your browser, when it talks to a server, says, I know SHA-256 and SHA-1. The bad server that you get tricked to going to will say, oh, I only know SHA-1. And so your browser says, okay. And now you're using the weak encryption.
And the padlock will show up even on a fake encryption.
Yes. Because the encryption is valid, the domain name is not. So it's a fraudulently given certificate.
So does the fraudulently created one only show up for the people that have
Yes, so the fraudulent certificate would show up when someone is tricked into going to a fraudulent website, which is done by phishing attacks by sending out millions of emails. Google is very proactive about checking certificates. And so a lot of people have been critical, which goes back to Rick's question. A lot of people are critical of Google Chrome for, in essence, jumping the gun on complaining about SHA-1 being insecure. But it does bring up the point to the public that we need to move to the next system. There's such huge inertia in the internet, people won't change because everyone running a server on the internet has to put the new stuff in. And there's always going to be someone who's not ready to put the new stuff in. So they are dragging their heels. They don't want to put the new stuff in. Let's just use the old stuff for a while until there's a critical flaw. Then everyone panics and jumps, and we have to fix this. There was a Heartbleed. There was an exploit called Heartbleed, that affected the DNS, the Internet Phone Book, and the security of OpenSSL, which is the security socket that many web servers use to encrypt data. And so there was a serious bug that was found, and the bug needed to be patched, but a lot of people weren't loading the patch because it takes time to load it on your server, and the big worry is servers sitting in a closet that whoever set them up doesn't work there anymore. They're forgotten about. They haven't rebooted in 10 years. They're just running back there. And so what happened with this Heartbleed bug several companies wrote proof of concept exploits where they were able to hack the web server using this bug to get the security key. And once I have your key, I can make as many copies as I want and break into all your stuff. And so until this critical flaw became publicly well known, there was real hesitation by the server people in updating their servers. So no one likes to load the new stuff, and because it's such a hassle, until there's a critical need, and so web companies are upset by Chrome starting January 1st, 2017. By Chrome sites weak, people aren't going to be aware of the problem, be complaining about it. So if you go to Amazon and it says, probably not going to go to Amazon again, or you're going to try to call Amazon and let them know. And so now that it's becoming a public issue, and we're calling it security shaming, that companies will start to update. And that's interesting. It seems to be the latest technique these days in public shaming. Apple has one for the battery. If you go to your battery menu, it shows you what programs are using significant energy. And so this is called battery shaming. So these programs are draining your battery. And one of them is because I have my screen brightness too high. I don't think I do, but they do. So my screen brightness is it's about 80%. That's too high and uses too much battery. So I'll drop it down to 75 maybe.
But Samsung does not use a battery shaming program. They just let it explode.
Yeah. So Microsoft, this is from November. So all the web server companies, the web browser companies are all working to update their encryption. And every now and then we hear about some browser that still allows ancient encryption, and there's a downgrade attack that allows someone to break in because the browser only supports MD5. Or the server says, I don't support any encryption, and the browser goes, okay.
I just
A
installed
lot
it.
of the school kids now, they don't get textbooks, they're using Google Chrome to
Yep.
get access. So could they do something to those? I mean, is there any danger there?
So there's a danger in anything you do online. If the encryption is weakened, the bad guys could potentially intercept the signal and change the data without you knowing it. And so we always want to make sure we have the highest encryption. So the first weakness in SHA-1 was about 10 years ago. And so about 10 years ago, they said, well, we need to start using SHA-256. It's been 10 years! And there's still not everyone switched over to SHA-256 yet. And so by 2014, only 15% of the websites were using SHA-256. And so it takes someone as big as Google to say, we're going to start warning people that their server they're going to is using an old encryption. It'll become public knowledge. Companies get shamed by not using good encryption. So then you have to upgrade your encryption. And that makes me think, at MacAv, we just switched to a new server, and I'm wondering what encryption we had. We probably didn't even bother with SHA-1. And the other thing that's happening is more and more websites are adding encryption, even though they don't need to be encrypted. So our website, we've got encryption. You don't need encryption to look at products, only if you're going to buy something. It used to be a computational penalty, a time involved to encrypt data back and forth. So that's why most sites weren't encrypted. Encryption wasn't even thought of at the time because the internet was free and open and there were no bad guys. So now in commerce and we want encryption. So it used to be when you logged in with your username and password and your credit card number, it would be encrypted. Everything else wasn't because there was a computational penalty. Now computers are so fast it doesn't matter. Every connection can be encrypted, even if it doesn't need to be. It can be, partly in response to the Snowden leaks saying the NSA was spying on everybody, not just foreign terrorists. So they cannot spy on encryption directly. They can spy on it before it's encrypted, which is another question. So if I go to my company here, so we are using a Komodo certificate. And let's see. No, we also have 1 and 256. So for backward compatibility, most websites are still using SHA-1 until more and more companies get shamed. Let me see what Chrome says about our website. Until more and more companies get shamed about using the old encryption in order to switch to the new encryption. So we are using a secure connection. Oh, I want to see what the certificate. Dun, 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 dun. Nope. Maybe Google won't tell me what the certificate is. Oh well. So it's kind of interesting just to background on how the internet works. In the beginning, to be free and open, there were no bad guys. Deemed unnecessary, information just flowed back and forth. Then the bad guys figured out a way to make a buck on it.
I just installed the latest version of Java, and notwithstanding the warnings, and what risk did I really?
So questions about Java. Java is a programming language. It's a fully featured language like C and C Sharp and Pascal for writing programs. There are some really good programs written in Java. OpenOffice is one of the big ones because it's a free Office suite, so you don't have to pay $500 for Microsoft Office. Now Microsoft Office is down to $150 because OpenOffice is so good for free, and they had to stop charging $500. Someone somewhere along the way thought it would be cool to put Java on web pages to give you the ability to have really sophisticated web apps. The danger is Java's a fully featured programming language. So Java running on a web page can access pretty much anything in your computer. So the bad guys have found holes in Java to exploit and steal information. And so Java gets updated quite frequently. It's the second most updated program behind Adobe Flash. So what happens is you potentially risk being exploited by the bad guys by having Java running. If you need a Java app running on your computer, off Java in the browser, and that's in Safari Preferences. I believe it's under Security. Yeah, I have Java installed here as well. And you can turn off Java. If you need Java to run for a specific website, you can say either ask or turn it on for that website. What are you using Java for?
Clerk website will talk only to Internet Explorer or Firefox. And if I want to read a document like a deed, I have to use Java.
Mm-hmm.
Since I have an iMac, Internet Explorer is useless.
Yep.
And with Firefox, you mentioned you can turn it off in Safari Preferences, but I'm using Firefox.
Well, so you want it off globally and on for the one specific website that needs it.
No,
because you don't want random websites to be able to access Java.
Under Preferences, what am I looking for?
I don't know. Plugins, settings, Java, something like that.
So and it will be obvious what I need to turn off so that I can leave something on.
Yeah, generally it should look similar to the one in Safari, where you can turn it off by default, and if I need to use it on a website, I can say ask, or you can say turn it on for that one website.
Without Java, I think the what comes up is plugin required.
Plugin not found. Yeah. So you've got two issues. So the one website only works with IE or Firefox. That's lazy programming at their end. And Java, one of the useful advantages of Java is it runs on every platform. So a company can write a program once, and it runs on Mac and Windows and Linux and Android and iOS. Makes it easier for the other company. It doesn't work well on every platform that a native application would, but it's easier, and for like the library, they probably don't have much resources or budget. So one program lets them work on any platform.
So if I go to Firefox's preferences and turn it off.
Let me see if I can find it.
But
Yeah.
will that automatically turn it off for other browsers?
No. Every browser you have to set separately. So if I go into my Firefox, Firefox, where is it? Firefox, preferences. I could probably Google it. Security. No. Privacy. Let's Google it. Turn off Java in Firefox. Because Java is such a powerful program, you generally do want it to be off all the time unless it's on, unless you need it for a specific website. All right, so it's under add-ons. All right, so we go to the hamburger menu, go to add-ons, and then what? Add-ons, then go to Java. I've already got Java turned off in Firefox. Click on the Java app, and so you've got never activate, or for a specific website you can say activate.
Yeah.
So it'll be in your add-ons manager. It will be one of them listed in your add-ons manager.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Alrighty, one last question before we go. Yep.
Flash player. A lot of things I get, that says you need the latest version of Flash player, but it's my understanding there's some issues with Flash player, or that's not.
Yes, so there are issues with Flash Player. That's the understatement of the internet. Flash is an animation program to make things bounce and jump on web pages.
Okay.
It was one of the oldest and earliest animation programs available for web pages. And since it's been around so long, it's installed on a lot of computers. The bad guys know that. Holes in Flash to exploit.
But it's part of Adobe.
It's
which
from
is a
Adobe.
reputable
So
company.
Adobe, when they find a hole, they find holes all the time. So sometimes every week there's a Flash update. The bad guys know this. So they will make fake Flash update notices to trick you into installing fake Flash and making more problems. So if you get a Flash update notice, close it, cancel it, ignore it, go to adobe.com yourself and download the Flash player yourself.
Okay.
Type adobe.com yourself. So because you can't be sure the message is real or fake, you don't want to click the link that says update because it could be taking you to a fake website.
So we have an Adobe icon for like reader.
You can't tell if that's the real icon or the fake icon.
Okay. All right. So just
Go to adobe.com yourself.
Okay.
And currently down in the bottom right corner is the Flash player download.
And that's also true of update notices from Java.
Yeah, update notices in general. Java, Java from Oracle, Silverlight from Microsoft.
Oh.
Generally, any of those plug-in updates, you want to make sure you go to that website yourself and download it yourself. One of the things that has happened is you can sometimes some of the fake Flash updates, they're so lazy that they don't even use the Adobe icon. So if it doesn't have the Adobe Flash icon, it's really fake. But some of the bad guys will use the right icon. It's still fake, but they're using the right icon. So that's what makes it really hard to tell. So many browsers now, and most OSs, don't even come with Flash installed at all. And for most websites, you don't need to have Flash installed. So if you get one, biggest is gaming websites like Pogo. Most Pogo games are still written in Flash. Many of them use newer formats called HTML, but many of them are still written in Flash, and you do need to have Flash running. And because generally novice, regular people are using the internet and playing games, that's how the fake updates percolate so easily.
Okay, DMG files, when you download a file, then do you delete that?
Generally, after you install a program, you can delete the image file. DMD is disk image. It's a digital CD. So you used to buy programs on CDs and stick them in your computer and install them. Now we're getting digital CDs, so it's a digital image. Once you install it, you can probably delete the DMG file. Because if you ever need to reinstall that program, you're better off downloading the new version.
Well, because what happened was at one point I searched and I had a whole bunch of Flash player DMG.
Every old installer, right. Now in in Sierra, they have started asking, after you run an install, it asks you if you want to delete the installer, which is usually what you want to do. So here's an example of a fake Flash update. So they didn't even bother to use the real Flash icon. It would have taken them 20 seconds to put the real Flash icon in there. So we say the bad guys are generally lazy, and the lazier they are, the worse real the message looks, but it still tricks enough people to be worth it to them.
They'll even misspell things.
Yeah, again, because most of them are not native English speakers. Spelling is wrong, grammar is wrong. Or there was an update. You would get a message claiming to be from the FBI or the NSA or Homeland Security. No, okay, yeah, make it bigger. So this was a big one for a while, and wish we could turn off half the lights. And it's got the big official-looking logo. It says your computer's been locked. You've been doing bad things: pornography, child pornography, zoophilia, child abuse, pedophilia, and so all these horrible things you're doing, and you're going to have to pay a fine of $200 for doing all these bad things. And you can go to CVS or Kmart or Rite Aid or Walgreens and get a money order and send it to us, and we won't come arrest you.